Welcome to your storytelling. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to subscribe. One morning, I woke up expecting another ordinary day. But by nightfall, my world had shattered. My husband, Daniel, had simply vanished. No note, no call, no sign of struggle. Just gone. At first, I thought maybe he had an emergency or forgot to tell me something. But when hours turned into a full day, and his phone went straight to voicemail, panic set in. I called his office. He hadn't shown up. I checked hospitals. Nothing. It was like he had been erased from existence. Frantic, I called his parents. "Where's Daniel?" I asked, voice shaking. But what they said chilled me to the bone. "Daniel? Who's that?" His mother replied, as if I were speaking nonsense. I thought it was a sick joke. "Your son. My husband," I shouted. But they acted confused, claiming they had no idea who I was talking about. His sister? Same reaction. His best friend? "Sorry, I don't know a Daniel." My head spun. Was I losing my mind? I tore through our apartment, desperate for proof that Daniel had existed. Our wedding photos? Gone. His clothes? Vanished. Even the emails and texts we had exchanged, erased. My heart pounded. Was someone doing this to me? Or was there something about Daniel I had never truly known? I ran to our landlord. "Daniel Foster. My husband. He lives here with me." The man blinked at me. "Miss, you've been renting this place alone for 3 years." I refused to accept it. I wouldn't let the world gaslight me into believing my marriage had been a dream. I went to Daniel's workplace. The receptionist frowned. "Daniel who?" she asked. My stomach dropped. I stormed into the office, demanding to see his boss. "I don't know who you're referring to," he said. But I had been here before. I had met these people. I broke down, sobbing. Why is everyone lying to me? I went home, exhausted, my head spinning. Had I imagined everything? Was I crazy? Then, I noticed something, a single shirt of Daniel's, crumpled in the back of our closet. I clutched it like it was my last lifeline. It smelled like him. It was real. He was real. Someone had tried to erase him from my life. But why? And how far would they go to make me forget? I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me. As I sat in our apartment, the doorbell rang. When I opened it, I found a man standing there. He looked familiar, but I couldn't place him. He introduced himself as a private investigator hired to find Daniel. His voice was low, as if he were afraid of being heard. "I know what's going on," he whispered. My heart skipped. "What do you mean?" I asked, terrified. "It's not your fault," he said. "But there's a reason his family is denying you." The investigator told me that Daniel wasn't who I thought he was. His family, they've been hiding his past from you, he revealed. They wanted him to disappear. My mind raced as I tried to process the words. Why would they do that? I asked, my voice breaking. The investigator looked around nervously before handing me an envelope. Inside were old photos of Daniel I had never seen before, photos of him in a different city, with different people. A life I didn't know about. I stared at the photos, my hands trembling. The man in the pictures was the same, but the life he had seemed foreign to me. Daniel had a different name, different friends, none of them I recognized. As I flipped through the photos, I noticed something odd. In every picture, he looked like he was trying to hide from something. Fear in his eyes. I had never seen that side of him. Had I married a stranger? The investigator's words echoed in my mind. They don't want you to find him. I confronted Daniel's family again, demanding answers. His mother's face twisted with something unreadable when I asked about his past. "Stop asking about him," she said in a cold, emotionless tone. "He's gone. You should move on." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Move on? I had been married to him for 5 years. I demanded to know the truth. But his family shut me out completely. It was like I was a stranger to them. Like Daniel had never existed. The investigator contacted me again, but this time, his tone was urgent. "You need to be careful," he warned. "There are people watching you. The deeper you dig, the more dangerous it becomes." My blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" I asked, panic rising. He didn't answer directly. Instead, he said, "Stay out of it. Leave it alone." But how could I? How could I walk away from a life that had just been ripped apart? I had to know what happened to Daniel, and why his family wanted him erased from existence. I couldn't let go of the feeling that something dark was lurking beneath the surface. Late one night, while searching through the stack of documents the investigator had given me, I stumbled upon something chilling. It was a letter, and signed, but written in Daniel's handwriting. It read, "If anything happens to me, know that it was them. They will try to erase me. Don't trust anyone, not even my family. My hands shook as I read it again. Had Daniel known something dangerous was coming? And who was they? I met with the investigator again, but this time, I was more determined than ever. What aren't you telling me? I demanded, slamming the envelope onto the table. He sighed deeply. There's a theory. Some believe Daniel didn't just disappear. He was forced into hiding. His family, someone in his family, wanted him gone. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. But why? What had Daniel done to make them want to erase him from his own life? The investigator looked around nervously before continuing. They've been covering up something for years. I couldn't shake the feeling that Daniel's family had been hiding the truth from me all along. I spent days digging into their pasts, researching every relative, every connection. And then I found something. A connection between Daniel's family and a corporation I had never heard of. An organization with a questionable reputation. The more I learned, the more the pieces began to fit together. But it didn't make sense. Why had Daniel chosen me? Why had he trusted me with a life that was clearly so complicated? The investigator called me late one evening, his voice tense. You're getting too close. You have to stop digging. If you don't, they'll come after you next. My blood ran cold. Who? I asked, panic flooding my chest. The people who wanted Daniel gone, he said. I don't know who they are exactly, but they've been watching you. Watching your every move. You're becoming a target. I felt my world tilt. Who were these people, and why were they so determined to make sure I never found Daniel? Just when I thought I couldn't take any more, someone reached out to me. It was a woman. She claimed to be an old friend of Daniel's. I know what's going on, she said quietly over the phone. And I can help you. My heart raced. Could I trust her? Could she lead me to Daniel? She told me she had information, important information, about his disappearance. But she needed to meet in person. My mind was spinning, but there was no turning back now. I had to see her. I had to know the truth. I arranged to meet the woman in a quiet cafe, away from prying eyes. When she arrived, she was nervous, glancing around as though she expected someone to follow her. I need to know everything, I said, my voice shaky with anticipation. She took a deep breath and started speaking in hushed tones. Daniel was part of something bigger than you realize, she said. His family, especially his mother, has been involved in illegal activities for years. And Daniel wanted out. I froze. Illegal activities? My husband had been living a double life. But why hadn't he told me? She continued. Daniel found out something about his family's business, something that could destroy them. That's why they wanted him gone. They knew he was a threat. I leaned forward, desperate for more details. What did he know? I asked. She shook her head. I don't know, but I know it was big, dangerous. And Daniel thought he was being followed for months. That's why he disappeared. To protect you. My heart raced. My husband had sacrificed everything, even his own life, to keep me safe. But why hadn't he told me? I left the cafe with a million questions swirling in my mind. My whole reality had just been turned upside down. I went back to Daniel's family, determined to confront them once and for all. I slammed my hand on the table in front of his mother. I know what you've done. I shouted. You've been hiding the truth. You've been lying to me about Daniel. She didn't even flinch. You need to leave, she said coldly. You don't know what you're dealing with. You'll never find him. Her words chilled me to the bone. What was she hiding? As I turned to leave, I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was Daniel's cousin, Thomas, the only one in the family who had ever seemed to care about me. You don't understand, he whispered, his voice full of fear. They'll come after you if you don't stop. You don't know what they're capable of. I felt my knees weaken. What do you mean? I asked, my voice trembling. He looked around nervously before pulling me aside. They've been covering their tracks for years. But if you keep digging, they'll find a way to make you disappear too. I couldn't let this go. I couldn't stop searching for Daniel, not now. As I dug deeper into the mysterious corporation Daniel's family had been linked to, I uncovered an old, sealed file with his name on it. The file was locked away in a government archive. My heart pounded. What could it contain? Was this the key to understanding everything? The investigator had warned me to stop, but I couldn't. I had to know what Daniel had been running from, and why his family was so desperate to erase him. I couldn't let go. I had come this far, and I wasn't going to stop. I reached out to an old contact of mine, someone who had connections in the government. It took some convincing, but they finally agreed to help me access the sealed file. The weight of what I was about to do hit me like a ton of bricks. If the file contained what I feared, it could change everything. I walked into the government building, my heart racing. I had no idea what I was about to uncover, but I knew it would be dangerous. I finally got my hands on the file. The folder was thick, almost unnervingly so. When I opened it, my breath caught in my throat. There were photos of Daniel, but they weren't the man I knew. These were images of him at a different age, posing with people I didn't recognize. Some of them were wearing expensive suits, others had weapons in their hands. I skimmed through the pages, and it hit me like a wave. Daniel had been part of a covert operation for a powerful, illegal syndicate. The realization crushed me. My husband, the man I thought I knew, had been living a lie. As I pieced together the details in the file, I couldn't believe what I was reading. Daniel had been recruited into this organization at a young age, his family involved from the very beginning. The file mentioned a series of high-profile operations, black market deals, money laundering, and even sabotage. Daniel had been a key player, but he had grown tired of it. He wanted out, and that was why he had to disappear. They wanted to silence him for good. I felt the ground beneath me shake. The man I had married was not who I thought he was. As I left the building, clutching the file to my chest, I felt a cold presence behind me. I turned to find a man in a black suit, standing a few feet away. He didn't say anything at first, just watched me with a cold stare. I knew instantly who he was, someone connected to the syndicate. "You've made a dangerous mistake," he said, his voice low and menacing. "You're getting too close to the truth. If you want to live, you'll stop searching for Daniel. Leave it alone." My hands trembled as I clutched the file tighter. He wasn't going to scare me. I had to know what happened to my husband. The warning from the man in the suit lingered in my mind, but I couldn't back down now. I needed to find Daniel, no matter what. I returned to the investigator, hoping he had more answers for me. "I need your help," I said urgently. "They're after me. I can't do this alone." The investigator sighed. "You're right. They're dangerous. But there is a way to get to him, if we can move quickly." He handed me a stack of papers, detailing a secret location where Daniel had been hiding. "This is the only way. If you want to see him again, you have to go there, and you have to leave now." The papers the investigator gave me were my lifeline, detailed directions to a remote location in the mountains. "It's risky," he warned. "You're walking into the unknown. They'll know you're coming." But I couldn't back down. I had to find Daniel. I couldn't live with the uncertainty anymore. The journey was long and treacherous, but every step I took brought me closer to answers. The mountains were eerily silent, and I felt like I was being watched. The weight of the papers in my hand was the only thing keeping me grounded. When I finally reached the location, I found a small, secluded cabin hidden deep in the woods. My heart hammered in my chest as I approached the door. What would I find inside? What had Daniel been hiding from me? I knocked, and the door creaked open slowly. There, standing in front of me, was Daniel. He looked different, haggard, his clothes worn and dirty, but it was him. My breath caught in my throat. "Daniel, is it really you?" I whispered, barely able to believe my eyes. His expression was guarded, but when he saw me, something shifted. Daniel let me inside the cabin, and as soon as the door shut behind us, he pulled me into a tight hug. "I didn't want you to find out this way," he said, his voice breaking. "I try to keep you safe, but I should have told you the truth." I pulled back, tears streaming down my face. "Why, Daniel? Why didn't you tell me what was going on? I could have helped you." He looked down, guilt written all over his face. "Because I knew if you knew, they would target you too. My family, they've been involved in some dangerous things that I couldn't escape." Daniel explained how his family had been involved with the syndicate for years, using their wealth and influence to cover up their crimes. He had been born into this world, expected to follow in their footsteps. But as he got older, he realized the magnitude of their actions, the lives they had destroyed. He tried to leave, tried to get out of the business, but they didn't let him. "I faked my disappearance," he said, his voice trembling. "I had no choice. If they knew I was alive, they would have killed me, and you. You were the one good thing in my life, and I couldn't risk losing you." I held him tightly, the weight of everything he had been through sinking in. We had both been living in fear, him, from his family's dangerous connections, and me, from the lies and betrayal. But now, as I looked into his eyes, I knew we could start over. "We're going to make it out of this," I whispered. "Together." Daniel nodded, a flicker of hope returning to his eyes for the first time in years. "It wouldn't be easy. His family wouldn't stop looking for us. But we had each other, and that was all we needed. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, I wasn't afraid. Thank you for listening to my story until now. If you like the video, please support it by subscribing and liking.